Alright, it's been a few days. I'm walking from the camera. I had to work several 12-hour daylights in a row, and 4th of July and all. There's several people that were off work. Generally I go to Colorado that time of the year, but just way too busy. So I ended up ordering another one of these cam plate retainers. The gasket on mine, I had inadvertently left it. I may have said this on the last video. I don't even know where I'm going to cut this off, but either way I'll kind of rehash. They don't have a gasket. It comes in the kit, the gasket kit, and I'd left this in that chem dip for 2-3 months, whatever it is. Doesn't make any difference how long I left it. It ain't working. So I just went ahead and ordered another one. It was less than 20 bucks, so it's not like it's not a killer. And to me, putting a new gasket on there is going to make possibly a difference, at least on gasket on the sealing part for oil pressure, because there's got to be a certain amount of oil pressure on that keeps that front bearing lubed. So by sealing that up good, it's got to help a little bit. So make sure your gasket surface is clean, at least up there on the top. I'm sure there's a torque spec on this. I did get the bottom end together. I don't know what the last video looked like. It's been a week or two since I've been out here. Covered everything up, made sure it's covered with oil so it wouldn't start rusting again. That's just hang on a second. Okay, I'm already seeing something different. I don't think it's going to make any difference. At least I hope it's not. The old cam plate has flat. This thing's completely squared off. This actually has countersunk holes for a different type of screw. I don't think that's going to make any difference, but I got to make sure this thing's the same thickness. I don't want the yeah, it looks like to still be the same thickness. The only thing I'm concerned about is that now, they're still pretty tight. That one's a little, those aren't. Looking at the bolt holes. Sorry, I had little lung cookies this morning. Let's see what it looks like. I'm sure they make a countersunk screw for that. Must be, I think he ordered this for an 05 engine, and I didn't think it would make any difference, but it might. So keep that in mind. Because the guy I deal with's got an 05 Chevy truck, and I think he just threw that in there. So I just told him I said I need cam retaining plate. Down there and make sure that's kind of half squared up before I get carried away here. Sorry, it's not boxes running. Hope everybody had a good 4th. Like I said, I had to work it, but you gotta. Every once in a while, you got to take that time off so you can kind of recoup some of your funds. We've gone on a couple of vacations this year already. See my kids. One graduated college after 10 years, and although that sounds like a long time being in college, she was actually raising 3 kids in a full-time job. So it was pretty good on her part. And we went to see my boy. He is now deployed overseas for 9 months, so with the Army. So we went down and seen them. Yeah, that's still one. Well, you know what that does, move around a bit. I don't think it's going to make any difference. When I put that when I put that gear on there, I'm going to check this before I get carried away. But anyway, generally we go to Colorado, see my dad for his birthday. It is July 4th, and we kind of enjoy doing that kind of stuff. Love Colorado. It's where I grew up. But it is such a pain in the butt to go to certain areas in Colorado during the court. And the traffic and people are idiots and let me see. I'm trying to see if there's actually a, and I know it'll pull the cam forward a bit when that's all tightened up, but I feel it is. Yes, it pushed the cam back, which I expected that because I don't have the plate in the back. So anyway, no, I see where it's rubbing, but I think it's hopefully it's supposed to do that. You could actually see rub marks on the original where the cam gear does ride on it. So, boy, I hate this to be a fail, but it looks exactly the same. It's just those, it had countersunk holes. It was the same thickness. I'm going to go ahead and say it's going to work whether I want it to or not. I'll spin around a few times, see what it's doing. Always want to lube the back of this with a retaining plate. This actually does rub on that surface. You know, obviously oil does get between there because it's throwing the chain's thrown around, but you always want to lube this area that's going to ride on that so that it doesn't start out kind of, you know, galling stuff up right away. I put the bolts back in the old cam so I wouldn't lose them because that seems to be the 3 bolts that come up missing the easiest. I do not have this thing lined up to time, so I will kind of show you that here in just a second. Let me get cranked up where it belongs. Should be right there. Get the wrench out of the way. And let's see, the cam's going to end up here. So it looks to me like hang on a second. Come on, we have the chain. Here, get this cam spun into. Looks to me like there's the mark. Some strange stuff, let me tell you. Put it on the cam gear first. Makes it a little easier. Line it up with the crank gear. Make sure your holes are lined up. Guy behind me, he's funny. He starts that mower up, runs it for just a couple 3 minutes, shuts it off, comes back a day or two later, mows for a minute or two and shuts it off. He's always kind of been that way. I don't know what he's doing. All right. My wrench. And yes, there's torque specs on this too. I will look this up before I put everything on. I'm trying to get to this point, and so I can get the oil pump on there, so I can get this motor, at least the bottom end, buttoned up. And that's something that I just need to get done. And I'd really like to get the lifters and heads on today too. Got to work next couple of nights, and so I got a lot of stuff I need to get done, but this is how it works. Didn't sleep very good last night. Nothing new. Always when I switch back shifts from one to the other. You don't want to get abusive with those bolts. You will strip them. I have done that on a small block Chevy before. Luckily the bolts give, not the cam. All right, I'll pull you off there. and show you it's lined up. Oops, moving you around too much. There's the cam gear. It's lined up with this. This is the only thing I see on here, so that's got to be the mark. So I don't see any other markings on there telling me that's where that goes. So that's straight up and down. There on the LS, there's not really a choice of retardant advancing with everything being stock. I'm sure that they do have something that you could do, you know, if that's what you wanted. But you know, the computer does all that stuff for you. You know, it with all of the sensors and everything, it kind of times itself, and then you just make your adjustments with the computer. That is a bit sloppy in my eyes, but I don't want to turn this too much. So I line up till I oil the cylinders up a little more. I'm just running around to make sure it still lines up. Yep. All right. Seems like that other. So my trash is going. Boy, it seems like that's a milling timing set. I don't remember the other one being that sloppy. I mean, it's not terrible, but it does have a little bit in there. But, I guess it is what it is. All right, let me pull the bolt. When I come back, I will. When we come back, I will. I need it to not turn. May have to get the impact on it. Anyway, when I come back, we'll be putting the oil pump on and stuff. So see you here in a few minutes. All right. I am still going to take this apart, I think, and show you how to do it. Oh, and these are, the back plate was 18 pounds of torque. That's a cam retainer plate, and then these are 26 pounds, which I've already torqued. Okay, here's the reason why this doesn't make sense to me, and why I don't think this was my failure point on that 4.8 is that there's no bolts in this holding this thing is just sitting on here. All right, if you hold this kind of tight against that block, and there is very little movement. I'm actually moving the engine before I'm moving, and there's not that much movement in here anyway. Now on the high performance ones, they tell you have to take these apart, and I think I'm going to, if I can get these apart without tearing them up. What I probably do is experiment on the factory one first. That way I'm not out anything. You know, if I mess this up, or the torque garbage that I have from AutoZone won't take these off, because I think these are Loctited in, and I don't want to tear the new pump up, obviously. I will show you this. I am not endorsing, recommending, or anything like that on this, but there's a handful of videos out there on these pumps. If you look on this, bottom of the pump, you have another Allen headed bolt right there. I can't remember what size that is. That's where the spring is. That actually sets the pressure. The spring that's in there sets the pressure of how much oil pump pressure you actually have. There is a way that you can take that loose, take that out, and you put a little spacer between the bottom, and I don't remember the exact sizes. There's a couple of different sizes, and it'll up at like 5 pounds and can go upwards of like 10-12 pounds. I'm not telling you to do that. If you want more pressure, order a pump specifically for that. However, if you wanted to do that, now would be the time to do that. This is just a standard milling oil pump. There's nothing special to it. It's not high volume, it's not high performance, not high pressure. It's just a standard volume, standard pressure milling oil pump. I've thought about doing it just to give it that extra 5 pounds, but I haven't done a video on that old Malibu I've got running and driving. Well, I did, but I failed. Couldn't hold the camera at the same time I was driving it, so that kind of caused me problems. I'm just putting these bolts in here just to kind of hold this on. Don't want to fall on the floor or whatever. I'm going to take the old one apart. Like I said, it's laying over here, and see what it takes to get it apart. Anyway, I did I happened to notice one day, I took somebody for a ride in it, and I jumped on that thing and ran up to about 5,000, which mind you, it has over 300,000 miles on it. So it's not very smart to continue to do that. But I figured, why not? I've got this engine sitting here I'm not doing anything with, so at least not right now. Oh, I see the factory one actually uses bolts, 10mm headed bolts, so it really isn't going to do me a whole lot of good. That is a factory pump. It's date coded 2003. This motor's the one that would lose oil pressure when it get warm, and I didn't see anything wrong with any of the bearings. Main, rods, cam bearings all look good. So my guess would be that the O-ring was bad and the pickup tube or this pump itself was bad. There could have been some other stuff wrong with it, but I'm going with that because nothing seemed out of the ordinary on this motor. Besides it, when it gets hot, it would lose oil pressure. So that kind of bothers me. I can't really experiment with that pump. I still may do this one. I still may try to get one of those loose. If it doesn't come loose really easy and really quick, then I'm gonna just do the best I can. I really want to take this apart, and if I tear up the bolt and I can still get it out, it ain't no big deal. But because I can actually, if those are the same threads, I'll just put the bolts back in them, you know what I'm saying, instead of these countersunk ones. But the countersunk's in there for a reason, kind of like that plate in there. I would imagine that was supposed to have countersunk bolts in there. I may go get those. I'm not sure yet because this isn't done by any means. But like I said, I have a little movement. If you look, I have a little bit backwards and forwards before those bolts are tight. If I can hold it on there tight. And I got a little bit up and down and a very little side to side. I mean, there's just not much movement. And that's the reason I didn't mess with it when I put the old one on. A couple of videos I was watching, people just threw them on, bolted them down, and walked away. Never, you know, came back, never worried about it or whatever. And the book actually says the same thing. When you go through that Haynes book, and I said that on the video, the 4.8, when I put the deal on there, the oil pump on there, it was the same deal. I got, it just said bolt up. So, I'm gonna see. I'm gonna tighten a couple of them up just to hold it. So so that way I don't have any movement or possibility of it being stupid. And then I'm gonna try to get those off, and I'll be back here in just a minute.